Hello, welcome to today's collective general message. As always, remember to use your own discernment, join with intention, and allow the messages to be received with an open heart. I'm figuring out how I'm wanting to be delivering and framing these messages, and so I think some of these words are shifting. I know I'm wanting to convey that this is not a literal translation, that this is not a transcription. This is a symbolic retelling of a story gifted. Okay. This is my desk. I was coming down here and I said, okay, I'm gonna film some videos. I'm gonna tune in and have something for the collective. And I had a few things on my desk from yesterday. When I go out into the world, I pack up what I need, I bring that out with me, and then when I come home, I normally leave it in my bag until it's needed again. And as I was putting my pieces back in order, there was just something of the process of the ritual is the message. And so I think this is just going to be me setting up and words follow. I do want to give a shout out. These are the earrings that I was wearing yesterday, and these are by Strawberry Moon Creations. She's one of my favorite artists. She's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And these are one of my favorite pairs of earrings. And it's interesting, the first time, because I had already had some of her earrings when I saw these on Instagram. I'm gonna adjust way for myself and how I want to position how I'm expressing the story. I saw these and one, beautiful. There was something about these dangling down, these 5 strands. And I'd seen similar shapes from her before, but I hadn't seen this flow, and I wanted them. If you've ever seen, something released from an artist that you respect and enjoy their forms, when they release something, but it's like your wallet doesn't necessarily meet them with the same energy. It was like I had just made, I can't remember when this was, it was in the last year sometime. I just made a few purchases on something or other, and I told myself, no, I can't excuse myself spending more money on what is not an immediate material need in this time. I decided to set that boundary. And then I keep going back and looking at them, and they're beautiful. And a couple weeks go by and becomes a couple more weeks, and she puts up another story, and these are still available, and I jump and I clobber and I run for them. And not in the way of these were kept for me, but this is something that I saw out in the world that said, my God, that inspires me. That, like, these earrings, I have them sitting, I'll show you. I have this glass with lavender stems in it. I can't take it out because then all the lavender will fall, but you can see the buds in the bottom. And I've had this lavender for maybe 7 years, something or other. And so I hang my beaded earrings on this, and I have them sitting next to the window, and it's next to a few things that when I sit down here every day, I find beauty. And so these earrings, I was wearing them yesterday, and I came home, and I never used to be someone who did this, but a friend of mine was like, you always need to wear the backs on the earrings because the last thing you want is your coat or your scarf or something poking the earring out of your ear and then you lose them. And it had never happened to me. As I say that, I'm like, I've had other earrings fall out, but that was just a miracle of the wind. But I'm always putting different backs on them because not all of my earrings have backs, and so I switch them around, etc., etc. And last night when I was taking them off, I got to put one back on and then the other fell. And if you're someone who wears earrings that has these very clear rubber backs on them, you'll know how hard that is to find when it's not right in front of you. And even while I see it directly in front of me, I look up in my camera and I can't necessarily see it right away. If I put that there in a shadow on my hand and I lower this, and this scale feels further away, can you still see it? Can you still see it? And so I took off my earrings, I reached down and I tried searching the floor for the back, and I said, you know what? It'll show when it shows. But there was something in that message of there's something that has been calling to you, and not that it is necessarily waiting for you, because it doesn't have that same perception of time passage and wanting. But even when what you want is right in front of you, there are still some, I'll say, protective layers or measures that you might be missing a step on. And if you're not doing protective measures, which is why I brought this obsidian, if you're not doing these protective measures, you may lose something that is treasured to you. And if you see in my other videos when I'm actually like a person on camera, I'm normally wearing a triple goddess necklace, and that's my everyday. But my other necklace is this obsidian, and I got this nearly a year now, just, like a choker to tighten. And I found that I haven't really worn it as well, clearly as much as the triple goddess, but I've had it in my bathroom next to like little knicky-knackies, next to bobby pins and hair scrunchies, and where I take my earrings off before I get in the shower. And it's just my little lady zone. And I see it, put some selenite there. I see it every day. And while I observe it every day, even though I'm not partaking in it, even though its protection is not something that I am intentionally embodying, I know that it exists in layers around me. Just by witnessing and recognizing, I know that this energy carries with me. Sometimes you may want more. That's fine. Here also, everything that was here, I had picked up my earrings to put them away, and then I said, oh no, I'll start the video like this. Everything else is just like as I put it when I came down after putting everything I needed on my desk. And then I chose these two, smoky quartz and labradorite. And from where I'm sitting, which I can't tell on the camera because it's too tiny and far away for me, this smoky quartz, I was debating whether to put it leading into the labradorite or to be coming out from. As I say that, I just nicked it and adjusted it. What I had wanted to say is that I know this smoky quartz is not touching this labradorite physically. Not to go into quantum science and then like things not touching and rubbing together, because I often talk about that. But I know that the tip of this smoky quartz has entered the labradorite's shadow. But then as I nicked it, it's that Schrodinger's cat. I'm not going to know if these two are touching unless I move them. But if I move them, I may force them to touch. And as I do that, they were just almost barely, like I don't have a small enough. I think they were closer than the tip of this earring, right? Something that you're trying to birth into the world, almost there. And when I was debating if the smoky quartz would come out after, it's kind of like this is your This is your filter, your manifestation battery. Okay, the words are gonna kind of square off, but I'm not gonna challenge it. I'm just gonna go with it. When I'm laying crystals, I'm very mindful of the way that energy is flowing. And having different crystals lined up, I'll take a couple. Okay, a little more. Now, I will move this actually out of the way to make room. These are all my pens, my markers, my highlighters. All of the voices of the storytellers, you could say. The chorus line, the script. This has now fulfilled its purpose. Off to the side we go. Now I'm situating. Now I'm tuning in. And now I'm aware that there's more things on this table. This is jasmine and rose than I currently need in this moment. I'm gonna double down on this jasmine. I think also a reason for this video is speaking to witchcraft and what witchcraft is, what being a witch is, what craft is. I'm not someone that's formally learned or taught in magic. Oh, I just realized that they're equal. How interesting. But it's doing things intentionally, having a meaning behind actions, doing things with a ritualistic nature is what I've always been doing. And I forget what it was. It was something in the ULab modules that I was listening to the other day that jogged a thought memory that I wanted to share. This is, I was in junior high. And it was the Tyra show, the Tyra Banks talk show. If you know, you know. And she had on these witches, and it was interviewing like modern witches to see, who are you, what are you about, etc., blah, 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 blah. And there were these white witches. And I remember at that moment, and the most knowing I had at that point was watching The Craft and be like, I get it. I get it. And about being a natural witch, about it just happening and being. And I watched these white witches talk about how they practice with only like light energy. And even though I'd never knowingly spoken to another witch, even though it wasn't something I had been like researching and practicing, I didn't have advanced knowledge on it, there was just something that really rubbed me the wrong way in terms of, yes, but it's the balance. It's not about excluding any part of reality, of nature. We need the storm to grow the crops, to feed the creatures, to nurture the land, everything is needed and necessary. And even that, I'm putting more intention on it. It's not about it being mandatory or required. These are human-made constructs. It is. Energy is. And you have free will. So you absolutely have the right, the ability, the capabilities to choose to only work with isolated aspects of energy. And as we reached 1444 on that, so perhaps this is a message for someone in the 444 collective who is like, I'm not here to work with all energy. I'm here to work with a very niche. Okay, good for you. Wish you well. For people that are open to working with all energy, this is the framework I'm speaking from. I have cedar incense here. See if there's enough flame. There is. Something that also happens, and this is where I'm trying not to pivot into, is this a witch thing? Is this a person thing? Is just a whatever? But often when one hand is so concentrated on something, the other hand is like in a different, not like in a different dimension, but in a different being state. What do I mean by that? Great question. It may also going back to like working in restaurants for 15 years and being a server and having to carry multiple things. You know, you'll have like, I think the most I could ever do was 4 plates on one. And then you'll have 1 to 2 in this hand. And there's just something that one side of you learns, and take this as you will, magical people. One side of you learns when to stiffen, harden. It's not about transforming, it's about keeping exactly as is, as the other part of you is fluid to enact. And so I find these skills that I learned in the service industry, what an interesting phrase, the service industry. My body is still remembering, and that shapes a lot of how I physically, tangibly engage with the world. Now, these pretty little rocks. And so we're looking at the ways that energy moves, right? If you think of a spiral, there is the inner, there is the outer, is one way to label those in a 2D. Okay. I'll take this. This is one of my favorite pairs of earrings. I've had this 15 years, maybe. And there's, again, which has been coming out a lot for me in the past couple months, is a circle inside of a triangle. And so sometimes when I go into the world and there's this, all this kind of energy going on, I'll put these on. And so we'll use this as a center ground, knowing that we have selenite and obsidian above. What I'm wanting to do is keep the ear balanced. As I'm like tugging on my actual ears. Okay, so let's go with the classic energy comes in from the left and then goes out the right. Making room. Okay. Snakes wrapped up in themselves. Now I am going to put on these earrings. These are vertebrae. I'm not sure of which animal, but it was, this creature was found as roadkill and all of its parts were processed for another life. And again, this is mammoth tusk. This is 14,000 years old. I'm okay with this going up here for now. Okay, so this has shifted a little, but it's still here. I'm going to balance this in light. I have rose quartz and I have rainbow quartz. Now, when I only started the purchasing of crystals very intentionally a year and a half ago. So I do some research into the ones that I collect, on their purpose, their connections with the body, with chakras, but don't quote me on it. I am also, when I'm in a metaphysical store, I am relying on the content that they share. And so all of what I'm about to say may not be factually, truthfully accurate, but for the intention I have placed into these, this works. I know rose quartz to be soft, love, gentle, clarifying. I know rainbow aura quartz to balance all chakras, be cleansing. So there's both cleansing. This for me is focused through heart. This is focused through all. So now I'm considering if there's energy coming in through the left, how do I want to receive it? How will I then transmute that inside of myself? And how do I want to deliver that back into the world? And so what I am going to do, I am going to choose to cleanse this through all chakras to get not a clean slate, but to cleanse what is coming in. Because, and this again being part of protection, is that we often don't know the origins of energies that are around us. We may not be witness or privy to the intentions within the energy. And so if you want to do the Wild West of energy work, you totally can. By all means, go for it. But if you, as I'm feeling something in my left hand, if you are looking to specifically unlock something, it's about being intentional. So now I'm clearing energy that is coming in, and I am choosing to express it through love, through creation, through connection. What I see now is that the earring, like loop itself, has pushed back on itself, which is not an action. It was not a position, not a motion, not a hold. It was able to do without these two energies coming together. And I'm not saying that the magic of the rocks made the earring stick in a certain way. What I'm saying is that when we speak through symbols and we put intention behind everything that we're doing, we are able to narrate the stories how we choose for them to be told. I have these two blue. I'm feeling something really strong here. I have lapis lazuli, and I have angel something. Blue, I have sodalite, right? I usually have sodalite out. I connect blue with throat chakra. So for me, this I often use for messages coming in, so I can more clearly, I can clarify the energies presented to me through my spirit guides. And so I will often put that from energy coming in. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it in this moment, what the human, what I am doing is forming a triangle. And if you watch my videos, you will often see these. Sometimes I keep them off camera, sometimes I have them in the frame. I kind of play around with that. But this is my first time realizing that it is explicitly making a triangle with you as the viewer, the center in the middle. That's so interesting. That is so interesting. Okay. So now my lapis lazuli, and then again, how I feel my energy is expressing, wants to be expressed, is the placement of. And then it's also, I'll have some moonstone and I'll just scatter that out. And then what that does. There's the neutrality of the chaos, and there's the intention of place. I forget the name of this one, but I know it's grounding and balancing. Yes, it's green. I don't automatically connect it with heart chakra. For me, this is deep foundation. And so, am I wanting to study the signal that's coming in? Or am I wanting to ground my own communication methods so I am not speaking in circles? Right now, I will choose, and as I'm following the curve of the lapis lazuli, I'm seeing that coming down and connecting in with the white here. Dragon's blood and red jasper. Dragon's blood, this is one of the ones that I ordered online and I didn't actually get to pick them out. There's only a handful of those that I haven't picked myself, and my relationship with them is so interesting because someone else chose this for me. But this, for me, totally works like a worry stone. And so this is one that I would more so have in my hands as I'm talking. And so dragon's blood, like my understanding knowing is hazy, but I understand it as like intense, masculine, dark, adjacent energy, specifically like blood of dragon, you know, like those dots connect themselves. I've read into more about it, but I don't have that inside my noggin right now. I do know that lapis lazuli, red jasper, and clear quartz is good for dream recall. That's something that I learned from Sith last year and really helped me. So I had those three on my nightside table with some moonstone on a doily, and I found I was able to, the moonstone kind of gave it this ability to sit in the in-between of what here means. Okay. Thank you. And now we're back to our smoky quartz and our labradorite. And so my earlier about how to line this up, is this still in frame? Yes. Is smoky quartz I often use for left. I use it for energy coming in. I use it as a filter to clarify what's coming in, and it's not as clean, pristine, neat, equilateral as clear quartz, but it's about the mess. It's about that chaos and not pushing it away, but allowing it to sit. And I really enjoy this one. This is, when did I get this? Maybe 3-4 years ago. And I couldn't find it for about 2 years, and I found it in the move. And I said, well, I've missed you so much. I like how it starts light and then it gets darker and darker. Like it's a filter that's not getting clogged, but what's the opposite of diluting? Intensening. Not sure what that word would be. Now, with this direction with the labradorite, am I wanting what I am injecting into the labradorite to first be filtered, and then it is expressed connection through labradorite? Or, as I'm like, this is not, but I'll use it for the example, do I want to communicate into, with, connect, express through this labradorite, and then have that message filtered in execution? And I'm hearing, no, I want it the other way. But it's interesting. I have like the ring light that's holding you up, that's not plugged in, but I see the reflection of the ring light. I see a circle inside the square. Okay. I was about to say, I think that's the message, and I look up and it's 3016, and so I'll say, I'll say yes. I am going to film a reading now in a minute, but this wanted to be spoken, and so it is now in existence. So if this was interesting to you, if anything in this message resonated with you, you can like this video, comment down below. You can subscribe to hear from me more often. And in the description, you'll find a link to my Substack, which hosts the 444 Collective, which is a virtual ecosystem that we're building, we're working through. Okay, stay tuned in. Maybe stay tuned. Maybe that's the out. Stay tuned. That could work.